This webinar is brought to you by the team at BetJet Pro, the best trading software for Betfair, bar none.
So it's a very warm welcome once again to a friend of mine, Paul Shires. How you going, mate?
Not too bad, Tony. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been about a year. I think we do this every year now. It's good, but I think we first met.
It's 2 years actually.
2 years probably. Yeah, probably is. Paul and I first met in 2008 back on one of the forums when all this trading lark first started. And I think you've been full time now, Paul, for about 13 years or so.
Yeah, just about next month. I think 13 years is up.
Yeah, because we met 2008, and then a couple of years later, it was 2010. You decided to just go out on your own and just focus purely on tennis, and that's pretty well all you've done since.
It is, yeah. Dabbled a little bit with football and other stuff, but it's tennis that's the main thing for me.
Cool. So look, it's that time of year again when I get you on and ask you for all your fans that are in my Telegram rooms, and of course for your fans that want to know what's going to happen at this year's Wimbledon. But over the last year or so, I've ended up with a load of questions that I've wanted to ask you. So I'm going to run through them first, if that's all right.
Yeah.
The Gods of Tennis series just on. Did you catch it? Catch any of it?
I did. Is that the same one that was on BBC?
They did three of them. They did McEnroe and Borg, and then they did Martina and Chris Evert, and I think the first one was Arthur Ashe and Billie Jean King.
Ashe, yeah. It was. I caught the Borg one by accident, really, just flicking through the channels one night. And it was a bit too late to finish it, so I went back and saw that there were another two and just watched them all.
Isn't it amazing to watch the rackets that they used to use and just the difference in the eras that it was?
Definitely the difference in the power between the shots, even for the men. Although McEnroe was, by the time McEnroe was around, the shots had some bite to them. But certainly the really early stuff, you thought, well, half the women would kill those serves, never mind the men.
One thing that really struck me was watching the Martina and Chris Evert one and the Chris Evert serve. It was like they were just warming up before. Yeah,
the second serve, wasn't it? I don't want to hit another double fault. I'll just roll this one in.
It's just the loosener. It looked like it. And I'm like, imagine the women today getting all over those serves.
Definitely.
So
definitely. I'm surprised Navratilova didn't quite as much as she got there eventually, but I don't know. They didn't seem to want it. I suppose the equipment they were using didn't allow the power that they're allowed to use or able to use these days.
If you haven't watched the Martina and Chris Evert episode, I highly recommend it to you because a lot of people won't know Martina's backstory, and it's oh wow, it's heart-wrenching. But wow, to do what she did with what she had to go through to leave a country and not see her parents,
as well. Yeah,
unbelievable. But that's what focus and being driven can do. So I know this one's a bit sort of left field and nobody can ever answer it, but Swiatek, would Ash Barty beat her?
I think they've played twice. Once on a hard court, once on clay, and Barty won both in straight sets.
I think she was at her peak then. Swiatek's got better since. What if they were to, would that have been the next Martina and Chris Evert rivalry, do you think, if Barty had hung around?
Possibly. I think certainly if she was going to come back now, I was reading something about Barty a couple of weeks ago. She doesn't want it anymore. She doesn't want that life. She just wants a peaceful life, married. She's playing a bit of golf. She's enjoying that. I don't know if she's had a kid already, but I think she plans to if she hasn't.
She's pregnant now. Yeah, she's about to have one.
Yeah. And you see the difference. I'd read about Swiatek's team and what they go through to keep her where she is and at the peak, and they touched on it in the Break Points second series on Netflix. It's just ridiculous the lengths they go to. So just thinking about what makes her stressed, how stressed does she get, how quickly and what do we need to do to get that stress level down. This is in the middle of a match, so they're going into this sort of detail that I think other players have only touched on that. It helps that you're world number one and you've got unlimited resources, obviously. But just listening to their team going through, she's laid on a bed as if she's having an operation.
Yeah.
And she's got wires coming out of her and say, oh, well, this is how you got stressed and this is how we're going to get it down. And I think she's going to be there for quite a while at world number one.
Yeah.
So if they were to play now, Barty would get murdered because she hasn't got that drive. She's obviously going to be rusty if she comes out of retirement now.
Of course, it's all hypothetical. Of had she stayed around, I think it would have been a great rivalry. But how many Grand Slams do you estimate she'll win?
Oh, I don't know. You could pick a number, but anybody could pick a number and be nearer than me. You just don't know because these days the sport is so much harder on the body than it used to be. Yes, they've got better at recovering afterwards, and general nutrition. The whole business is better at looking after the body, but it doesn't take much to create an injury or injure the cells, something that is maybe not going to put them out, but just slows them down a step or two, and that's enough for everybody else to catch up. So I'll pick a number. I don't know.
Well, where do you think the rivalry for her is going to come from? Is there one?
It's the WTA has always been open, hasn't it? I mean, Sabalenka on her day can knock anybody off the court, but she's so flaky. She might serve 20 aces one day and 20 double faults the next.
It's just consistency, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot more. Obviously now Serena's gone, and I wasn't a fan of Serena. I'm not going to say for a second I was a fan of Serena, but she was way ahead of everybody else. When she was at her best, she was practically a bloke playing against the women, and that's probably not something you should mention these days about what's a woman. But we won't go down that road. But it's more even, but they seem to struggle for consistency, which makes it more interesting to watch because if you're watching something on TV, a match on TV, they always go for the big name, and it's usually against a nobody, and they're just beating them up, and it's not an entertaining match. I think that's why people don't really get excited about tennis unless they're doing something like trading. They've got another angle to it.
Well, I wanted to come on to that a bit later with some of those one-sided matches. But it's interesting, you mentioned Serena Williams. The contrast between her and Venus was stark, wasn't it? They were two very, very talented players, but completely different.
Yes.
Completely different. The power was all with Serena, but of course Venus had a bit more height, bit more reach, a bit more of the feminine game that we're used to, I suppose, whereas Serena was just all strength and power and speed.
Yeah, very different frame. Very different. I mean, Serena's more like a bear and Venus like a woman. And that's why she took over in the end.
Paul, while we're on the women's game, what's your opinion on what's happened to Emma Raducanu and why is she burning through so many coaches? What's the issue there? You're in tennis all the time, so you'll read and hear this stuff. But she just seems to change coaches every 3 months.
Yeah, I think she's been through either 5 or 6 in the last couple of years or something ridiculous. I mean, what she did at the US Open in 2021, nobody can take that away from her. That was absolutely incredible. To as a nobody, as she wasn't a top player, and to be honest, isn't a top player, and possibly won't ever be a top player, in my opinion. But you don't win a Grand Slam as qualifier without dropping a set by fluke. There's got to be some talent there.
Well, my question then is why, what I really got confused with after that was why the coach that she had between them felt that he couldn't take her to the next level. She was already at the level by winning the slam without dropping a set. Why did she need to change coach then?
I think because the level that we saw is obviously the matches and the results, and absolutely incredible. The world went crazy about her. She's the next Serena. She's the next Naomi Osaka. And she isn't. Her game is still very naive, very raw. And I didn't expect her, and I actually anticipated that she would lose in the first round when she went back there. And I think that probably did her good because what was she, 18 when she won it? soon everybody in the world knew who she was. Everybody knew her face, etc. And that was a lot of distraction from just day-to-day tennis.
Her life changed overnight, didn't it? It was all the magazines, the sponsorship. Yeah. She became an instant millionaire, and the pressure must have been immense on someone that young that had never been around that before.
Yeah.
It can crush the best of them.
The coach will have seen everything behind the scenes and what they had to do to get her to the stage where she could get through all these matches. I mean, don't forget the previous slam was Wimbledon, and she did well, got to the 4th round, but then had a panic attack and had to quit. That's not a champion. Again, that was probably good experience for her, which is why it's absolutely mental that she was able to get through that tournament, qualifying rounds, and the 7 rounds in the main draw, not drop a set. And people try to take things away from her, say, well, you didn't beat anybody, it was easy. She met Sakari. It was Sakari in the semis, I think Bencic in the quarterfinals, and maybe Shelby Rogers, who was certainly not a pushover in the 4th round. She played some decent opponents. And then they tried to take it away from in the final that, well, Fernandez beat all the big players. She was shattered. She played, I think, 3 sets in the previous 3 rounds. I forget who it was. Svitolina was one, maybe Pliskova, maybe Bencic. I can't remember. So it's been a while ago. So she was shattered for the final, which is a fair point. But still, I think the British always like to find something wrong with someone, don't we?
Well, Australia has this thing that we call tall poppy syndrome. And as soon as you stick your head up and stand out from the rest, they love to just chop you down and start knocking you and bring you back down to ground level. But speaking of...
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, speaking of mental health, Naomi Osaka's got similar issues. She's had to pull out a few times, and she's just, it seems to be a real thing these days that the pressure now at the top level is so much that some of these girls are cracking.
She could not cope with it. And I think if you're doing something that you're not enjoying and you've got millions in the bank and you enjoy photo shoots and everything else, why not do that? Why not do that? She doesn't need to work. There isn't. And it's similar, I think, for Raducanu. And I think there's something wrong with the way she's training, because at 20, she shouldn't be having double wrist surgery, ankle surgery. They're overtraining her. Now, whether she's not maybe she's not listening, maybe she's getting bad advice, I don't know. But she's basically knackered her body already, which is why I don't think she's going to be a top player. I don't think her body will cope with it.
If we can't determine what's going to happen in the women's side of things going forward, let's have a look at the men's. And my question would be, Carlos Alcaraz, Djokovic, Medvedev, they're the new big 3, I suppose, now that Federer and Nadal. Nadal's going to play this season out, but he's not going to win anything. He's just going to do his Elton John type farewell world tour. And but, I mean, he's been good. But what I like about this trio of players is that whereas Roger and Nadal and Djokovic are all similar in age, what we've got now is Alcaraz at 20, Medvedev at 26, and Djokovic at 36, all sort of coming to the same level at different ages. It's just intriguing. And the different temperaments as well. You've got Medvedev that's just the Russian that doesn't show a whole lot of emotion. You've got the Serbian that's quite... He does have his moments. He's no Roger Federer, but he's like...
He's no Kyrgios.
No, he's no Nick Kyrgios. We'll come to him. Djokovic, of course, we'll look at a bit later when we get to the men's. Whilst you're no fan of Serena Williams, I'm certainly no fan of Djokovic with his constant toilet breaks, his medical timeouts, his fake injuries. That's all well established. And like we're talking about mindset a minute ago, we saw Nick Kyrgios just destroy Stefanos Tsitsipas mentally last year. He just had a proper meltdown. That was nothing to do with talent. whilst they're both outstanding talents, that was purely...
It was sledging, wasn't it?
Oh, mind games. He just got in his head and just had to run around there, and he didn't want to come out. So what do you think of the next big three and the dynamic there with the different age groups?
I still think, they maybe are at a similar sort of level, although Djokovic is coming down to their level a little bit. That's where it's going to level out. He is getting on in tennis terms. I think he's still got some slams in him. He's obviously just taken over the record for 23, is it?
23, yeah. Nadal, he had 22, yeah.
Nadal 22. I forget how many Federer had. He's a few behind.
21 or 20.
Now, obviously, they're not going to get another one now. Nadal's going to play, as you say, but he's not going to win anything. No. Federer's quit anyway. So I think he's got a couple more slams in him. But yeah, it used to be pretty boring when you were looking at Grand Slam draws, because it was like, who's going to win it? Djokovic. Do you know what I mean? Or who's going to win the French? Nadal. It just got a little bit dull, really.
It's really interesting, Paul, that when we were watching Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, they seemed to just keep driving each other to the next level.
Yes, yeah.
Federer was almost just like, he'd almost sort of peaked and come back down. And then Djokovic came in, Nadal lifted his game, and then all of a sudden it was each slam, they kept going. And you're quite right that what's happening now is you've got Djokovic up here, Alcaraz down here, but they're definitely coming to meet in the middle, aren't they? And Medvedev's right in the middle of those. On his day, he could beat both of them, or he could lose to both of them in straight sets. But it's going to just
makes it more interesting, doesn't it?
Well, we're going to have that sweet spot.
Yeah, Djokovic is one of the criticisms of him is too machine-like. That's why he doesn't get beaten very often. You know, that's intentional. And yeah, I'm not a fan of all his BS. You know, fake injuries and where he goes wide with his eyes, he can't balance, and he's all over the place. Like, what are you doing?
It's just Nadal
and Federer would never do that. I've never seen them do that. And I think that the temperament, he wants to be as popular as they were, and he's just not, because he can come across as a nice guy in certain circumstances, but it seems like it's put on. It seems like an effort, whether it wasn't for the other two. Federer could be a dick when he was younger, but certainly later on in his career, both he and Nadal, fantastic ambassadors for the sport. Nadal, I don't think I've ever seen him abuse anybody. You know, he's polite, from the ball kids to the lines judges to the umpires. You'll see you can see him wince a little bit in some press conference where he doesn't like being asked a certain question, but he'll still not be rude about it.
Well, I think the strongest thing I've seen from Nadal is, I think it was just last season, there was one bloke that did something that Nadal didn't like, and he waited till the end of the match and he just had a very quiet word with him at the net and said, that's out of order. I didn't like that you did that, but he didn't make a big song and dance about
fine.
it.
That's controlled. It's not aggressive. It's just putting his point across, and it has more weight because it's Nadal saying it to you.
So I need you to settle a bit of an argument for me that's been going on for a couple of years in our Telegram room, and I really value your expert opinion on it. And it probably, I'm just going to go with what you say. If you change my mind, you change my mind. But something you said a minute ago really brings us into this conversation, because I'm going to ask you your opinion, and just wait a sec before you give it. I'm going to ask your opinion of who's the GOAT of men's tennis. Now, some of the guys in the room are just going, it's purely on tennis ability. That's it. So 23 slams, Djokovic, no argument. But for my argument, and what you brought up a minute ago, Paul, was the way Djokovic goes about his business with the fake injuries, trying to trick the opponent, bad sportsmanship. I bring sportsmanship into the GOAT argument. So I have Federer and Nadal there, and I'm split between the two. But for me, I'm clear that Djokovic's number 3, but others are going, no, it's just on the court, slams, doesn't matter how you get them. So what's your opinion on the whole thing, and who do you think is the greatest?
We see this is the problem with the old GOAT debate, because there's no agreed on criteria for what we're measuring, how we're
well,
measuring.
We're going to agree on the TradeShark one. You're the defining answer, mate. So whatever you say rules.
I normally don't entertain this GOAT thing, but as you've asked the question, I'll give it because obviously I've got an opinion because I've got an opinion on everything. So my wife says anyway. So how are we gonna measure it? It's got to be, some of it's got to be based on results, and if you're going to compare results, it's got to be at the biggest tournaments, so it's the Grand Slams. Okay, so that's got to be a factor. Another thing, I'm quite big on behaving the right way and treating people with respect. And the thing is, what has switched me off to this debate in the past is it's all about the fans of each individual player. They'll move the goalpost so that their player's ahead. Do you know what I mean? So if it's a Nadal's fans, they'll say, well, he's a nice guy, he's always polite, best player in the world on clay ever. Of course he is. Federer, you've got the same thing, good ambassador, very polite these days. I mean, like I said before, a bit of a dick when he was younger.
Bit of immaturity there, wasn't there?
Yeah, but weren't we all? I like to see a bit of I'm not a fan of players, I'm a fan of the sport. And Federer at his best was just amazing to watch. You know, it was almost like ballet on grass or on a hard court, whatever. The way he'd jump out of the way to hit his forehand, and it was just beautiful to watch. But he hasn't quite had the success that the others have. Nadal, if you're arguing for Nadal, best on clay, never loses his rag. As you said, you brought up the time when he needed to say to someone, but he did it like a professional, the right way, quiet word at the net. That's all that it needed. And then if you're arguing for Djokovic, it's got to be his results. It's got to be the Grand Slam record, which is now, when they were all round about 20 slams, it couldn't really be used as an argument, but I think it can now. And also the fact that he can add to that. And then what your Nadal and Federer fans will come along and say, well, yeah, he's doing it when they're not playing. But if you look at the head-to-heads between the three of them, I think Djokovic leads against Nadal by one. It's maybe 30-29. Against Federer, he also leads. It's a bigger gap. I don't remember the exact numbers. And Nadal is well ahead of Federer. So that's another one towards Djokovic. He's got a better head-to-head against both of them. So you can't say he's done it while they were around. It's not his fault they're not there anymore.
Well, I think you've probably just answered the question for us, that if Djokovic has got the better head-to-head record against Nadal, and he's got the better head-to-head record against Federer, and he's got the most slams, it's almost impossible to make a case against him, other than people like me that put a lot of weight in he's not a nice person, so I'm not voting for him.
No, I mean, I'm not. I don't know why it's the top players I don't seem to like. I'm not a fan of Djokovic at all. But you can't get away from...
Sorry, I think I know why, Paul, because to reach that level, like Serena Williams has and Djokovic has, you've got to be ruthless. And ruthless people don't come across as nice people.
Part of winning, all right, sportsmanship has got to come into it at some point, but you've got to be completely focused, and he will do absolutely anything. He will play the games that the others haven't, probably just couldn't stomach doing it.
That's the thing. Imagine if Federer and Nadal had used these mind games to psych out people and fake injuries and do other stuff. They could probably be equal or ahead of him. So it's an unwinnable argument, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who you going with, mate? You got to pick one.
I've got to go with Djokovic.
Okay.
I think that one of the big things is, apart from the results and everything I've talked about, mentally, even if you allow for his bullshit and all the rest of it, mentally he's the stronger of the three.
Yeah, definitely mentally.
And that's why he's got the results. That's what it's down to. You know, there's loads of times where he's been down in matches and he looks like he's down and out and it looks like he's injured, although he's usually faking it. But he comes back, he finds a way to get the wins. And that's really what it's about.
It's interesting that they've each had a different surface they've mastered, isn't it? Because Roger's just the king on grass Nadal's the king on clay, and Federer's won 10 Australian Opens now. Would have been 11 had they let him in last year with the COVID situation. So he's just king of the hard court. But Roger on grass, Nadal on clay, and I think it's going to repeat itself, isn't it? You've now got Alcaraz is going to win the next 10 or so French Opens. Djokovic is probably going to win 1 or 2 more Wimbledons and probably another Australian.
Yeah.
So where does Medvedev fit in? Maybe he's not even in the argument.
Hard courts. He's not in the argument for clay. He hates clay. He's had some half-decent results on it, to be fair.
But Djokovic has won 10 on hard courts in Australia.
Yeah.
So Djokovic and Medvedev on hard court. There's only one winner there.
I'm not saying Medvedev is ahead of him. I'm saying that's his best surface. If he's going to get the slams, it's going to be. He will win more on the hard courts.
Okay.
I can't see him getting anything on clay.
No, and of course, being Australian for me, that Nick Kyrgios, the talent that guy's got, I think he's starting to have a bit of a crack now. I think he's starting to finally mature a bit, and I think he wants a slam more than he's admitting. Definitely the last 12 months, Paul, he's been different and a much better player than he has been the previous years.
Yeah, I think he wants more slams than he's prepared to work for.
100%.
He was also, I don't know if you've seen the Point Break second series. I binge watched that last week. The first 2 episodes are basically about Kyrgios, and he has got so much talent, and that is something that winds me up with players in any sport, where they've got the talent, but they don't think they need to put the effort in to get the most of that. And he has not got the most of his talent. On grass, he can be unbeatable if he really knuckled down, but he's always got an excuse. The excuse he gave in the Netflix episode was somebody, when he was a kid, called him a little brown boy, whatever. And yeah, that's not nice, but kids are bastards to each other. They'll say anything to get under your skin. I was called a lanky, spiky four-eyed, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Now, that's not the same as a race card, but to the kid at the time, it is. Now, whilst I remember it now, I don't blame it for anything that I haven't been able to achieve.
Yeah, his passion, is basketball, isn't it? His passion's basketball. He stays up late even when he's in tournaments to watch his team play. But Shane Warne's very similar, that Shane Warne, his passion was AFL, and he was heartbroken when they told him, you're not good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not fast enough to play AFL, and they cut him. And so he went and played cricket and became the greatest leg spinner there's ever been. Yeah. So Kyrgios, whilst he wanted to play basketball, but he doesn't quite have the talent to make it, he's certainly got the talent to pick up his second sport. But I just don't think, I mean, another one that's in the same boat is Bernard Tomic, isn't he? So much talent, can't be bothered.
No, he's not in the same league. He's not in the same league as Kyrgios. He did not have the talent that Kyrgios had.
I meant attitude-wise.
I think his dad messed him up. His dad messed him up. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about Kyrgios is, and you see it so often with him, if things aren't going his way, it's not his fault. It's the guys in his box.
They reckon that's the strategy, though, Paul.
No, I understand. I understand that. They said that. They said, well, it distracts him so he can concentrate on the next point because it's their fault that that's happened. That came up in the Netflix thing as well. I just thought, he can grow up.
Yeah.
I get it that he's distracting himself and it's a tactic, but you're making yourself feel better by treating someone else like crap. And if that's the only way you can do it, find something else to do, because that makes you a piece of shit in my book.
Yeah, for sure.
They're really affected by it. They don't just brush it off. They're really affected by it.
Definitely.
And if that's the only way you can do it, is in the wrong game.
Yep, for sure. Well, look, let's have a chat about the actual reason we got you onto this podcast. It's been fantastic to catch up, but mate, we want some cookies for Wimbledon. So I want to have a look at some of your Grand Slam strategies, Paul, not what you just use every sort of day to day. We'll tell people about that later and they can go and get them. But your Grand Slam strategies, and as you've mentioned, the first round matches for me, I get bored looking for a bet because everybody's 102 against a no-hoper. So I want to know more about what you do your approach to the Grand Slam in the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and particularly the final are? What sort of things you're looking for? Obviously, things like, if one guy like Djokovic got through in straight sets and the other guys had five set matches, well, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Just run us through your thinking of a Grand Slam before we get on to the actual event.
In terms of let's do the women first, because that's the easiest. It's the same. It's best of three. They get a day's rest in between, so there shouldn't be an issue with being tired if they've had a few three-setters. They're playing best of three. It's exactly the same. And I don't change any strategy at all for the women's side of it. I just don't. Why? It's the same. I do hear people saying, oh, well, because it's a slam, I'm going to be increasing mistakes. So, right, why? Well, it's a slam. There's more money in the market. Well, what's your stakes normally then? Oh, about 100. And what are you going to increase it to? Well, 500, 600. The markets will take 500, 600 anyway. So if you were able to confidently trade with £500 generally, you can do that day in, day out. I just don't get why people think it's got to be different. The men's is different because it's best of five. Totally different ball game. But as far as the women's concerned, it's exactly the same.
I think I can give you a bit of an answer there. I might be right off track, but when you look at horse racing, which is where I put most of my time, and you look at Cheltenham, Paul, Cheltenham's the big thing in horse racing. Yeah. When you're looking at the Cheltenham markets, there's so much money there, the markets hardly move. So people use much bigger stakes knowing that it's not going to scream against them either way. And I wonder if they're taking that mentality into tennis, thinking, well, there's so much more money there, it's only going to move 2 ticks instead of 5, so I'll use bigger stakes. It's the wrong thinking.
No, I understand, yeah.
But I'm trying to wonder if that's...
It isn't.
Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. No, I mean, in tennis, there's a price that it should be at mathematically. And if a lot of money comes in to move it beyond the price that it should be at, bots and certain traders are just looking for value. So they'll snap up that value and it just levels itself out to where it should be. So you've got the same market moves, just with more money waiting to be matched at each price. Okay,
so look, for now then, since you're going to do everything exactly the same, let's have a look at the women's tournament. So you've got Swiatek's at 4.4 on Betfair. You've got Rybakina at 7, Sabalenka is 7.6. You've got Kvitova at 16, and then the rest are 20 plus. So I presume you're going to look at one of those top 4. And how do you see it panning out?
Well, I'll tell you what I do. When I look at a tournament, if I'm looking for bets on the tournament, I look at, you can't really do that until you see the draw, which is why I wanted to look at the draw today. So if I just bring up on my screen so if we look at the top of the women's, appreciate you can't see this, but Swiatek's at the top. She's easily, I don't look any further when I'm looking for prices to enter. Don't look any further than quarterfinals. That's all I'm interested in initially, because that's going to be enough to get a decent price move. Now, she's withdrawn today. It's been carnage, to be honest, this week with some of the number of players pulling out and retiring, and she's pulled out today, fever and food poisoning, I think. Whether that's BS because she wanted to be rested. She only made the 4th round last year, so she can pick up some points, potentially. She's got quite an easy draw. Sorribes Tormo in the 2nd round, maybe Harriet Dart in the 3rd, possibly Bencic in the 4th, but Bencic hasn't been in the best of form anyway. So I would, to be honest, she should walk away to the quarterfinals at least. So she's maybe not terrible. What did you say she's at? 4.4 when I checked this morning.
4.4 favourite. So what's interesting with this, and we'll get to the men's in a minute, but you're looking at the men's top 2, which we'll come to. The 2 top in the men, Paul, take 77% of the market in those top 2. And in the women, you've got Swiatek at 23%, 14% for Rybakina. So you're only looking at 37% of the market in the top 2. So it's a lot more open. But, she's 4.4.
Absolutely, yeah. other players to look at, I'll just go down the top half of the draw. You've got some big names there. Bencic hasn't been playing well. I still think she'll make it to the fourth round. She's got Collins if she plays. Collins has done nothing this year. She's been injured with a back problem. And Lynette, who Bencic may play in the third round, was injured week before last. So even if Bencic isn't at her best, she's going to, I would say, meet Świątek in the fourth round. You've got Kazatkina. She's in the final tomorrow. She's playing really well. Beat Pliskova this week. Served really well. Did she beat Keys today? So many matches flying around in my head. I think she beat Keys today to get to the final. Can't remember. I can't remember. Azarenka, top name, not being in the best of form. Mertens retired last week. She plays Svitolina probably in the second round. Svitolina back from having a baby, her and Monfils. She's taking her time. She found some decent form on clay. Hasn't really found it in the couple of weeks on grass. Corey Goff, she'll be hopeful to do well, and I've got her getting to the fourth round, but her serve has been very hit and miss. She's actually done well today. I think she played. She played Keys today. That's right. I traded both of those. And Keys just not quite blew her off the court, but she was comfortable. She always looked the better player. So I don't think Goff, she could easily slip up if somebody has a good match. Svitolina maybe has a good match. You've got Pegula, big name, not in good form. It has been literally carnage this season, and especially since the grass kicked in.
It sounds like we're going to see quite a few upsets here potentially then, mate.
Definitely. Pegula, I still think is going to make the fourth round without being amazing. Another good player that's next there is Samsonova. She's had injury issues. She did get to the semis this week. I think she may struggle from getting to the semis this week, so maybe she's going to fall to, who does she play? Parks is no good on grass, no good on anything apart from indoor courts, Parks. Friedsam in the second round, perhaps Samsonova. That's a bit of a banana skin. Kudermetova's a good one. She's been in good form on grass, really solid. I've got her getting to at least the quarterfinals. She's priced at... I'm sure I must have picked her out. I didn't. How have I not picked Kudermetova? What price is she? Can you see?
Yeah, Veronika Kudermetova. She's 42 to back at the moment.
That sounds decent. I think she's not got an easy run. She's got Vondrasova potentially in the second round. Vekic, who's been good, but again picked up a little bit of injury last week or so. She could come up against either Kontovic or Garcia. Garcia retired yesterday. Do you see what I mean? It's just there's going to be loads and loads of upsets because everybody's seems to be carrying more injuries than previous years.
So I wonder if one of the strategies then is just to go through, just take on the favourite in a lot of these games. And
that has been, to be honest, these last 2 weeks, that's been probably the biggest strategy I've been using.
And are you looking, Paul, at getting on some of these matches at the low prices before the start, or are you waiting to see how they start and then taking a position based on how they look in the first couple of games?
Always waiting. Very rare that I would enter pre-match.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth a little bit of patience. It might mean that you sat there for 4, 5, 6 games before you find an entry.
One of the questions I had on the women's, Paul, was the amount of times women break serve. So you think you take on a favourite, they get broken, and you think, oh, here's an opportunity, and then the next they just break back in the next game, and you're back where you were. And I've seen a match go 4-4, and there's been 8 breaks of serve in the first set.
Yeah, that's not. It's not that unusual.
Is it just the weakness of the serve? They're not that strong. So the one receiving the serve has just got all the time in the world to pick their spot and get on the front foot.
And certainly on the grass, they've transitioned from clay to grass, which is quite a big difference to do that from 1 week to the next. They don't play much on grass anyway. It's a slightly uneven surface, especially as you get further into the week, and the courts have been used more. But I don't know what it is the last 2 weeks. So many players looking like they've never seen a grass court before. It's been ridiculous.
It's a lot faster surface, isn't it? But it keeps lower as well. So they're dealing with extra speed and it's not getting up as high.
I mean, clay is pretty much a sport of its own for the tactics that are involved in that. And grass in some ways is as well. That's why a lot of players use serve and volley, because they're trying to avoid the ball hitting the court on their side. So I've got there the quarterfinals for that. That's the top half of the women's draw. Swiatek, Kasatkina, Pegula and Kudermetova.
Okay, what have you got from the bottom?
If we look at the bottom half, we've got even more carnage in this one. Jabber's at the top. She reached the final last year. She will not reach the final this year.
She's the fifth favourite at 20-1. Too short?
No, I mean, it could be she's going to find some form. I don't know where she's going to find it from. Maybe she'll find it behind the fridge. I don't know. She's really struggling. She's going to drop, potentially looking at dropping a lot of ranking points. She's got an easy couple of matches to start off with. She plays Magdalena Fretch in the first round. On the quiet, she's a pretty good grass player. She's pretty confident on grass. And if Jabber's not at her best or close to her best, that could be a banana skin in the first round. Second round should be easy if she gets there. Third round, she might get Andreescu or Kalinina. Both those, Andreescu is never far from a retirement or an injury. Kalinina's been injured as well. Jesus Christ, is anybody going to finish the tournament? I think it's the last one standing, I think.
She's about 109 at the moment to win that first match, Jabber.
Yeah. So let's say she does find a little bit of form, potentially, and I'll be amazed. She may get to the fourth round. If she gets there, she's likely to come up against Kvitova, who has actually been playing pretty well. She's won a tournament. She did withdraw either last week or was it this week, just for exhaustion. So long as she's rested, I'm sure she played it up a little bit more so that she could pull out to be fresh for next week. I think she's a decent price, actually. I did write hers down. 15.5 when I looked at her. I've got her getting to the quarterfinals at least.
Okay.
So she's not a bad price. Then you've got Haddad Maia, who's actually ranked on grass number 1 because she won 2 tournaments last year. She retired this week.
That is
she's
carnage,
not been
mate.
at her best.
So many retirements. Many of these women coming in under injury clouds.
It's just crazy. She plays Bronzetti, who's in the final tomorrow in one of the tournaments. Now, she generally doesn't have a good serve. She served superbly in the last round. She sort of beat Swiatek. They were due to play today, and Swiatek pulled out. But she served really well in the previous round. So if Maia's not over her injury, and it was an injury rather than it was in the middle of the game when she stopped, said, oh, "Sorry, I've got to quit. I just can't continue." Whether she would have continued if it wasn't Wimbledon next week, I don't know. So then we've got Maria, who is not one of the top players, but very capable on grass. She's probably going to play Ostapenko. She's had an interesting couple of weeks as Ostapenko. It was one I did on a live stream. And I actually said in the live stream, if she comes back and wins this, I'm never trading tennis again. And she came back and won it. She was, I think, was it 5-2 down? Crazily down, and then called for the medic. Market went crazy thinking she was going to retire. She didn't retire. Who was that against? That could have been against Fretch. And Fretch just lost her mind, just lost it. And Ostapenko came back, won the set, and easily won the third. And not only she'd supposedly been so injured she was going to retire. Not only did she win that match, she played doubles a couple of hours later and won that one, and then went on to win the tournament.
She's been using the Djokovic playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. And then today, playing Georgie, she took the first set in a tiebreak and retired. So is that genuine? Is she wanting to rest? I don't know. Who knows? She's a serial medical timeouter as well. So potentially we've got Haddad Maia and Ostapenko meeting in the third round.
Coin toss. You just have to wait and see how they start, and you get a feel for the game.
Rybakina, last year's winner, obviously didn't get any ranking points from it. She withdrew this week.
She's been being backed because she was third favourite. She's now second favourite, and Sabalenka's drifted.
Has she?
Yeah.
She's a little bit further down on this one. So I've got Rybakina making it through to at least the quarterfinals. She's got Cornet and possibly Boulter. She's got quite a comfortable draw in the first few rounds.
But will she play the favourite in the semi, or will she meet her in the final if she gets through?
I don't know. It'll be the final.
Right. Okay. So she'll probably play Sabalenka in the semi-final then.
Yeah, she's going to play, I reckon, Kvitova in the quarterfinal. And that'll be a good match.
Swiatek will play Sabalenka if the top four make it through.
Possibly. Keys, we've then got very good form at the minute. Serving really well, serves a big part of her game. She has got a pretty reasonably comfortable draw.
She's 55 on Betfair.
Yeah, she could. In the second round, there's Sakari and Badosa, who are potentially going to meet. Obviously, very tough opponents. Badosa currently going out with Tsitsipas, and since they got together, their games have suffered. Tsitsipas' form is shocking going into Wimbledon.
Yeah, they've got their mind on other things.
And Sakari can have a crap match at any time as well. But if Keys continues to play as she is, it doesn't matter who gets through that one. She'll beat them, and we'll possibly meet Krejcikova. She withdrew this week. She hasn't looked her best. She doesn't play that often on grass. Very capable, just hasn't looked comfortable the last couple of games that she's played. But she's got potential banana skin in the second round. Andrea Ebert, an ITF player who's coming through. Very impressive, very huge potential for her. If she catches Krejcikova on a bad day, she could even make it through. I think she's come through the qualifying rounds. Alexandrova, very similar performances to Kudermetova. They played a couple of times. Alexandrova took a title a couple of weeks back. She's got a pretty easy draw until the fourth round when she meets probably Sabalenka. Sabalenka's route to there is very easy first round. Georgie, potentially in the second round, that could be difficult, but she should get through unless she has a bad day. And easy. If she does get through Georgie, she's in the quarterfinals. Sorry, she's in the fourth round. Plays Alexandrova in the fourth round. She should beat her, but that'll be probably a three-setter as well. So my quarterfinal is from there. Keys against Sabalenka, Kvitova and Rybakina. Just the ladies.
Right. So we'll come on to where everyone can get your tips for all these games, because it's going to be hard for them to remember all this, but obviously you're going to put tips out each day and everything. So we'll have a look at the men's. I don't think it's going to be nearly as exhaustive or difficult as that. It looks pretty straightforward, but let's have a look at the market. We've got Djokovic at 1.72, Alcaraz is 5.1. You got Sinner at 25, Medvedev's 34, Zverev's 50, Kyrgios is 60, and Andy Murray 85. So as I said, look, you could combine Djokovic and Alcaraz, and if you bet £100, if you were to Dutch them, you'd end up with 28 quid 62. So it's the 77% of the market in those two there, Paul. Yeah. Any upsets, or is one of those two winning?
Let's have a look. The sheets that I'm looking at now, Alcaraz is top of the sheet. He's not that experienced on grass. It's fairly comfortable first round. Second round, not an easy one, but should get through it against Rinderknecht. Humbert in the third round, I'd expect him to get through. So I think he's safe enough to the fourth round. Potentially, it's going to be Zverev that he meets. Zverev plays Domino in the third round. I would expect him to beat Domino. Could be a long match. And I actually think Zverev has probably got the edge over Alcaraz if they do meet in the fourth round. So I think Zverev is a pretty decent price, assuming I'm right.
Well, he's 50 at the moment, so
50 at the minute. That's changed. Who else have we got going down? TFO won a title, the American, so he's going to be really confident. Looks pretty comfortable for the first couple of rounds. Maybe meet Dimitrov in the third round. That'll be a good match. In his current form, he should take that. Although Dimitrov's doing well enough, he certainly won't roll over. One of the new boys, Rune. He very little experience on grass, but he's really improved his game generally.
He's 60 on Betfair at the moment. Zverev's actually come in a little bit to 44. Not a lot of difference there between 44 and 50, but Rune is currently 60, 65 to lay.
He's got a good draws, Rune. He's got an English wild card, Lofhagen, who I've never heard of, I'll be honest. And then a clay quarter, Carbelis Baena, probably in the second round. And Davidovich, Fokina, who's no great shakes on grass. So he should be comfortable enough for the fourth round, where he's probably going to meet TFO. That'll be a good match. That'll be a potential five-setter. So one to watch out for. Then we've got Medvedev. How focused is he going to be? Obviously didn't play last year, being Russian. Tough one in the second round. Manarino, on his day, on grass, can beat most people. Medvedev cannot afford to have a bad day there. If he gets through, he's up against, I would say, Greek Spore, who's, I think he's won a title or at least made a final so far on grass this year. Medvedev obviously should make it through. And potentially he's going to play Raonic in the...
Is he still playing?
In the fourth round.
I haven't seen him.
He came back.
Oh, did he?
No, he came back recently.
Some serve on that bloke.
And, well, his serve got broken pretty much straight away. You would think he's going to be hitting so many serves in practice before he comes back after a good 12 months or so away. And he obviously match rusty, whatever. He lost that match, but then, did he? Or did he come back?
Well, he's 600 to 1, Paul, if you want to get on him. He's 600. But we're not looking at tournament betting here, are we? The value is not in betting on the winners market. The value is going to be in these individual matches.
But I reckon Raonic will make it to the fourth round. I think he's got a chance. He's not got any tough opponents particularly.
Okay.
Norrie is a frustrating player. Such a frustrating player. He started really well. Started the season really well. Won a title. Reached another final. Played Alcaraz in both finals. Technically, he's not that strong. And I think that's what lets him down when the pressure comes. On his day, he can beat most people. He's got a tough second round against Eubanks. They should get through that one, the American. Another potential tough one in the third round against O'Connell. Should get through that one. And then it would be nice to see Murray with him in the fourth round. Murray's doing all right to say he's got a false hip, to be honest. Won a couple of challenges. Not done too much on the main tour, but he's doing well on the challenges. He's got Peniston, another Brit in the first round, he'll beat him. And then potentially got Tsitsipas in the second round. And as I said, Tsitsipas is nowhere near his best. And I reckon Murray can take that one.
Did you see 5 sets for Murray being an issue, Paul? Like getting back to 5 sets? So,
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he'll get through that. I'm not sure Tsitsipas is in the shape and form to be able to take him to 5 sets.
Okay.
Tough one against Cressy if Murray gets through, but he should make that. And then say, hopefully, it'd be nice to see Norrie and Murray there. I would expect Norrie to take it. I think Murray's hip will be slowing him down a little bit from there. So in that group, I've got quarterfinals, Medvedev against Norrie and Zverev TFO. Which leaves us one more sheet to do. Just say I'm going to put these sheets on. I did. Oops.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to confirm. You're going to put these sheets up on your website, aren't you? And so they're going to be able to go and follow this, and they can follow your path to the final and bet on the individual matches that way following the sheet. We'll let you guys know where to get all this stuff at the end of the webinar. I'll go and show you some of Paul's websites and where to get all this info. But for now, keep going with the last
Let's
bit.
fly through this last sheet. First one here, Sinner, reasonably capable player.
Third favourite, 20-1. Well, 22. But, I mean, that's the third favourite.
Retired.
They don't give anyone else a chance, do they?
He's had an injury, retired this week. He's got probably a decent draw, to be honest. It's like it's the flakes section, is this. Schwartzman, who has been, in the past, a really strong player on all surfaces, really, just hit months and months of awful form for no apparent reason. He started to play a little bit better. Sinner should beat him as long as he's... I'm not sure what his injury was, but it caused him to quit his match this week. And potentially Dan Evans in the third round. Dan Evans, so much ability. Another flake. You never know what you're going to get from him. He's not played well in the last few months on any surface. Occasionally has a decent match. Don't have high hopes for him, but because of the way the draws worked out, he should probably make the third round to meet Sinner.
And you'd have Sinner winning that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't retire. And then a little bit of a surprise this week. Hanfmann, the German, not really done anything on grass before. And he's got through to the end of one of the tournaments. He's got a decent draw. He could actually make it to the fourth round. Now, if he'd had a semi-difficult draw, maybe not, but I think he's got a chance there, and he would potentially meet Sinner in the fourth round. Then we've got Bautista Agut. He beat Medvedev a couple of weeks ago on grass. Very capable on this surface. If he continues with that form, maybe a tough one in the second round with Gasquet. Gasquet just needs to retire. He's playing okay, so he shouldn't retire. But when is he going to retire? Is he 41 or something now? Don't know. He's getting on a bit. Well, I say I'm 54, and I'm saying he's too old at 41. So I think Bautista Agut is one of my tips to get to the quarterfinals. Okay. I think he's going to get past Coric in the third round. And then he's got a tough one with Shapovalov, who made the semis last year.
He was the guy I was going to ask you about, but I thought you'd get to him. So,
yeah, he's another one, tends to perform better at the big tournaments, a bit like Sloane Stephens on the women's side. But I say he made the semis, so he's going to be motivated. If Bautista Agut can keep his form going that he's had the last couple of weeks, I'd expect him to be the one going through to the quarterfinal. Then we've got Mr. Kyrgios and Rublev. Kyrgios has got... Who's he got in the first round?
Paul, you'd back Kyrgios
David
to beat.
Goffer.
You'd back him to beat most of these blokes, but it just depends which Kyrgios turns up, doesn't it?
If he even if he plays, he's withdrawn at least a couple of times, I think, this year already.
And umpires getting his way, he gets upset with umpires. He just beats himself so often.
Oh, he'll be having a sleeve on his other side to hide the other cuts.
I'm just so scared to back him because you're just waiting for that eruption at any minute and your money goes up in smoke.
This season so far, you haven't lost any money because he just doesn't play.
I don't bet on his matches. It's too emotional for me. I just watch him and just enjoy the match.
He's got a good draw in the first two rounds. Potentially Rublev in the third round. Rublev's Karatsev in the second round, he really should get past him. Karatsev, big server, but not got much else to his game. And I'd expect Rublev to take that. Because I don't think Kyrgios is going to play, to be honest. But whatever, even if he does, I don't think he'll get to Rublev the same way that he got to Tsitsipas.
You don't think he'll play Wimbledon? You think Kyrgios will pull out?
Well, he's pulled out. I can't think when he last played. He was down to play a couple of times and just withdrew before the first round. So I would think if he's able to, he will. I mean, he made the final last year, didn't he? partly due to Nadal pulling out in the semi-final.
It devastated him to lose it. It was unbelievable. He said it just crushed him. So,
yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Let's see what's taken out of him.
Aliassime, another big name, not in good form. He may find some form, get inspired by being at Wimbledon. He's got a decent draw. He'll probably make it to the third round. And potentially he's going to be up against Mazzetti, who's more known as a clay player, but he's finding a bit of form on grass. He's done okay the last couple of weeks. And he's finding his form on other surfaces as well. Not really sure which way. Oh, sorry. No, I've jumped ahead there. Aliassime will be playing potentially Bublik, right, who is another flake. Who has the bad day on the day? I think we'll decide that one. I actually haven't gone for either one there because I think whoever gets through, Rublev will beat them anyway. Mazzetti will play Hurkacz, who really should beat him on grass. So Mazzetti has improved on this surface, but Hurkacz should be. He's another flake. He's got the ability. He can lose his serve at the drop of a hat. And then Djokovic down the bottom. Easy first round. In form, Thompson in the second round, but obviously he should breeze past him. Thompson's had a couple of dodgy losses recently. Hard to go against Djokovic getting to the final. On this sheet, I've got him as far as the quarterfinal. That's as far as I got.
Okay.
So I've got Djokovic and either Rublev and Kyrgios, and then Bautista Agut and Sinner if he doesn't retire. So I think there's going to be a lot of upsets.
Yeah,
a lot of strange results. It's hard to see past Djokovic for the title, unfortunately.
Okay, so just to wrap it up, Paul, Djokovic for the men's. Who's your tip at the minute for the women's to win it? Or you still haven't really decided? You've only looked at it today. I understand that, so I don't want to put you on the spot.
I think because of her experience on the big stage, if you'd asked me earlier on today, I'd have said Swiatek, because of the way she prepares, the way her team works with her, the fact that she's pulled out today, you don't know when it's before a slam whether it's genuine.
Yeah.
I think she's probably exaggerated it so that she didn't ask too many questions. She said it was a fever and food poisoning. It could well be.
Yep. 7 matches to win a Grand Slam. It's not easy. So you got to be fully fresh and rested.
Sabalenka can do it. I don't think she'll be able to hold it together for the full tournament. Jabeur reached the final last year. She's going into the tournament not in great form. You could even see people like Kuzmatova and Alexandrova. It's that open. It's been so random at times. I'm not saying they'll win it, but I think they could. I've got both of those making the quarterfinals, can easily make the semis, and you just never know. I think it's going to be interesting.
Okay, mate. Well, look, let's go and look at some of your websites so that the guys that have watched this and they think, where do I get all these tips? Now, you're going to put up
what the hell are you talking about? Yeah.
You're going to put these 2 sheets up to show people the pathway you think is a possible path to the final. But you also have a service, Paul, where you put out your tips each day. Do you do it each morning or do you do it the night before?
What I do every day is I will research every match, every main tour, main draw match.
And when do you send the tips out?
I really look forward to the slams when you've got 64 matches on the first 2 days, each of the first 2 days. They get emailed out to you. So it's basically the notes that I use when I'm trading a match. So there's some stats, the background, how they did last year, how they've done recently, and then a plan for how I'm going to start to trade the match.
Right. So, Paul, where do we go to get the notes? What website do we want for that?
That's going to be on blog.tradesharktennis.com.
Okay.
And it's in the top menu is the button to go to the subscribe page.
Trading Tips subscriber page is there. And you can also go and buy Paul's trading course there as well. It's on the website. You can also see a load of his YouTube videos and a little bit about Paul if you're interested. If you haven't known him like I have for the last 10 or 12 years, you can go and read a bit about Paul and how he got started in this. And there's also some trading tips there. But I believe, Paul, you're also involved now with Tennis Profits.
Yes.
Is that right?
Two guys approached me, it's about 3 years ago, I think now. They do a similar thing to me. Steve does it at Goal Profits, which is a massive football site. And Matt has got GG's, which is obviously horse racing. And they wanted to do a tennis site similar to Goal Profits. And they approached me because they know nothing about tennis. I mean, Steve still talks about Sampras and all the rest of them.
Andre Agassi.
About the new players. He actually asked me. He actually asked us yesterday whether is clay faster than grass. I said, no, Steve, don't worry about it. I'll do the tennis.
Yeah.
He looks after the websites. So yeah, we've got that. We've got a database if you want to research your matches. I do suggested trades on the homepage each day that's taken from the trading tips email. I do live streams. I also do live streams for TradeShark as well now. I do one trading session. 1 week it's a live stream. The next week it's a chat room trading session where they can follow along the trades that I'm doing. I explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, etc. So there's the database to research your matches. There's also a live section that's going to be really useful for Grand Slams, where you've got a lot of matches on at once. You can have a lot of matches on one page with some of the main key stats, and you've got it all showing on one page. Now, I haven't seen anywhere else that's got that.
Brilliant.
I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm saying I haven't seen it. And there's also alerts that pop up to let you know the favourite's broken back or they've got one of the breaks back if it's a double break. Really useful page.
Okay, I see there we've got on that page you've got a Wimbledon deal for 2023. What's that deal?
2 for 1 deal. 2 months for the price of one.
Beautiful.
Grab that while it's there.
You've also got a blog site, Paul. Tell us about the. You've got a third one.
The blog
is that the trading course one?
Oh, the trading course is TradeSharkTennis.com. That's the sales site for the trading course.
That's right. So the first one was the blog. Yeah, the first site was the blog post. That's right. So this one is the How to Trade Tennis. That's the course you've been doing. You've updated it for 2022. I see. You've got lifetime membership of TradeShark Tennis with that. So once they're in, there's nothing more to pay. They're lifetime members. You've got a Telegram room
and you
as
get
well,
live streams. We do live streams on there at the minute. That's 2 live streams a month. Whether it's finding the time to fit everything in with the Tennis Profits as well. But we're doing 2 live streams there as well, where you literally see my screen as I'm doing a trade and I'm talking to everybody who's watching and explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it.
Yep, similar.
They find it pretty useful.
My followers will know that from the racing ones I've done and the Greyhound live streams and that same sort of thing. So they get 10 days of your trading email tips with that as well, don't they?
They do. There's a bundle offer as well. You can get 2 months of the trading tips emails along with trading course. That's for an extra tenner.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I really like about yourself that I get compliments about with me is that we're both very approachable and contactable. If anybody wants to contact you, they can, and they'll get a reply, and it comes from you. It doesn't come from the back end or the staff or someone will get back to you. It comes from us. We answer our customers personally and promptly. So, mate, I think we
both got into it for the same reason, to actually help people and pass on a bit of information.
Yeah,
which when we were doing it, people didn't get, did they?
No, they
said,
didn't.
no, it's a con. It's a con. You're just trying to get money out of people.
Well, mate, we must be the world's best.
We both genuinely enjoy teaching people.
We must be the world's best con men to have been here 15 years, mate. So
absolutely, yeah.
Look, we
should be millionaires by now if we're just conning them all. Conning them.
We're spending just too much time, answering emails and helping people and Telegram and just doing stuff. I just want people to make money. That's what I'm about. So we've got a brilliant community there. Do you have a Telegram room, or you're not in Telegram yet?
No, there is a Telegram room.
Okay.
it's just for members of the TradeShark Tennis.
Yeah, so once they join that, you'll send them to the Telegram room to get in.
There's a link in the members area where they can just get in there.
Perfect. Well, look, guys, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. If you want any more information on Paul and his stuff, you can either contact Paul directly through the website or just contact me. I'll put you in touch with him. But, mate, good luck with it. I'm sure I'll be in touch with you through the tournament because I like sending you messages on random games like what about this one? Sounds like the women's going to be just a train wreck, like anything could happen with all these withdrawals and everything. We just don't know what we're going to get.
There's going to be a lot of trading opportunities, but we need to be careful of the
and the men's is going to probably warm up from about halfway when we get a few more better matchups.
Yeah, first couple of rounds, you don't tend to get too many decent matchups. What you can look at with it being best of 5, if you get a player who is 2 sets ahead, quite often even the big players, as long as they haven't started the match at a ridiculously low price, they often just relax a little bit. So it's worth laying a player that's 2 sets up when it's best of 5 because they do often lose or at least go behind in that 3rd set.
My favourite strategy of all time, Paul. It's still my favourite. For how much longer, I don't know, but it's lay Andy Murray at the beginning. Wait till he gets 1 or 2 sets behind and then back him to storm home and win.
Wait to the 3rd round, I think.
Oh, Andy Murray losing the first set is one of the safest bets in tennis. It always has been. It's brilliant because they overbet him at the start because he's British and it's Betfair. Yeah. He's just always too short and he often drops the first set because, like Kyrgios, Andy Murray mentally seems to need to get behind before he wakes up and starts trying. It's like losing the first set just fires him up and he goes, something clicks and he gets angry and bang, off he goes. So.
I think his attitude's changed a little bit now because he's got obviously a bit of metal in his side rather than flesh and bones. So he's maybe trying to get a faster start in most of the matches. But it's ingrained in him that he's going to be relaxed at the start and let something slip because he knows it can come back.
All right, mate. Well, that's brilliant. That was meant to be a 30-minute webinar. We've done an hour and a quarter, so that's fantastic. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to that as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. We'll be in touch through the tournament. I'll show them where to get all this stuff, and best of luck for Wimbledon, mate.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye for now.